welcome to our live training session. I hope you've enjoyed the last few weeks. Today we're going to do something slightly different again. We've got Paco joining us today. We're going to be covering some different recall tips that you can do both in the garden and out on walks. We can also cover dogs that jump up. Paco is a very springy dog, and she jumps quite a bit, especially before going on walks and things like that. So it's just a few tips that may help you to control that a bit more. We're also going to be covering a bit of leave, which is great. We're going to just do the basics for today, and we'd love to see some videos of how you've all got on over the course of the week as well. So to start off, Paco's decided she doesn't want to jump anymore. We can start off with a leave. So for this, you can find a seat somewhere, whether it be a sofa or somewhere that's sort of just above your dog's level, and we're going to get a handful of treats. So to start with this, I'm going to start with some of Paco's kibble, something that she's interested in, so it can allow us to up the ante of the treats later on. So once you've got a nice handful of treats, you're going to place it on your knee. Come here. Good girl. Ready? So she's not too interested in that at the moment, so we're going to add a little bit of chicken into it to get her interested. So to begin with, your dogs they'll lick and nuzzle and try and get the treats, but we're waiting for that break from your hand. Yes, good girl. So you do need to be quite quick with this, and then remember to reward. You can take the piece of food from the hand that all the treats are in and give it to your dog in the opposite hand. This just gives a clear indication when giving the dogs the food that they can only take it when it's given by you. Ready? Yes, good girl. And the second her nose moves away from my hand, I'm marking her with a yes. Yes, good girl. So for some dogs, you will need a lot of patience with this, as some will try and claw at your hands and things like that. If so, you can tuck all your fingers in to a nice close fist, and if need be, okay, good girl, pull a sleeve over so yes, good girl. Yes, good girl. So Paco's picked it up fairly quickly. So this time we can present her with an open hand. So the minute she moves closer, we're going to close it. And at this moment, we're not going to say anything at all. Yes, good girl. So we want the dog to learn the concept before we add the word to it. Yes, good girl. Yes, girl. Paco is a very quick learner. You may be surprised, Paco, how quickly your dogs do pick this up. Good girl. Yes, good girlie. Very nice. So now we can go on to the next stage. Where we can begin to add a word. Because Paco's leaving it from an open hand, she is learning the concept already. So leave it. So I'm going to keep a closed fist until she backs away, and then open it. If she moves closer, we'll close it again. Yes, good girl. And then we go again. Leave it. So a lot of the time people do get in the habit of shouting leave it, saying it multiple times, thinking that on the 5th time the dog may then understand what it means, but it's best to just say leave it the once and then present your hand and then wait for the dog to leave it. Okay. Good girl. Leave it. Yes, good girl. Good. Ready? Okay. So much going on. Oh, good girl. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Leave it. Yes. Good girl. Good girl. Ready? Leave it. Yes, good girl. Here. Good. Although Paco is slightly distracted by other things going on around, but that's fine. We can let her have a look and then bring her back to it again. It's important that you don't overdo this, because if you do it to the point that dog's bored and is wandering around, then you know it's time to stop that exercise and move on to something else. Especially because we want them to always, again, end on a positive note. Ready? Leave it. Whoops, dropped a little bit. Leave it. Yes, good girl. So the end idea for that is that we can present the dog with an open hand and they'll leave the food. We can then gradually take the hand lower. So, ready? Leave it. As this makes it harder for the dog. The closer you get to the ground, the more inclined they'll be to try and get the food. Yes, good girl. She's trying every possible way to get this food. Yes, good girl. Leave it. Yes, good girl. Good girlie. Stuck up on some more treats. Okay, leave it. Yes, good girl. So even if your dog does get distracted by something and looks away, you can reward that, because essentially they have left the food that was in your hand. Ready? Ready? Some more chicken. And then gradually, we can get even lower. Good girl. And then we can place the food on the floor. Turn you this way. So we're going to just cup our hand over the food and then lift your hand. Okay. Oh, too much going on. There we go. Good girl. Yes, good girl. So again, we've cupped our hand over the food and then we're going to lift our hand. Yes, good girl. And then place it down again. Yes. Leave it. Yes, good girl. So this bit. There you go. Good. So then you can try this on different surfaces at different levels. You can cup a hand over it, open a hand, cover it again, and leave it. Oops. She was lucky, she got it that time. You can also try this with your dog's food bowls and things as well. Ready? She's super excited that she got that treat. So we're going to go back to an earlier start. We're going to go, leave it. Yes, good girl. And then she can get a bigger reward for that one. Good girl. So see how you get on. It is a very gradual process with teach and leave it. You can then build up to toys and things like that with exactly the same idea, with covering it with something, whether it be a small enough toy that you can cover with your hand, or you can use like a pot or a box or something to cover that as well. Okay, so now we're going to go through some other tips for things like recall. Paco loves to run, and she gets very, very excited, especially being on a long line and having that bit of freedom. Good girl. So sometimes coming back to a recall, she doesn't really want to come because she thinks she's having the best time sniffing all the different smells on the grass and things like that. So for this, we're going to turn it into a good game for her. So, Paco, we're going to start off with some yummy treats, and this time we're going to throw it away from us and then call her in. Paco! And then we're going to get her interested in another piece of food and throw that between our legs. As she's eating that one, ready? Paco! Oh, throw another one away. Good girl. Paco! Yes, good girl. And then the minute she turns to look at us, we're going to mark her with a yes. Yes, good girl. And then throw another piece. You can continue this for even just a couple of minutes. You can start off in the garden. It just helps the dog engage with you, whether it's on walks and things like that. It's also a confidence builder for dogs that aren't too fond of kind of coming close to you and things like that as well, because they get the confidence of going through your legs. Okay. Good girl, nice. And then we've got another one. So it's a similar concept. We're going to throw a piece of food, and then as she returns, so Paco, yes, good girl. We're going to lure her around and then throw another piece in a different direction. Paco, good girl. Good girl. Paco. We can do this in both directions as well. She's lost a bit. Okay. Yes, good girl. So the dog is waiting for the food. A lot of the time we recall our dogs and expect them to come straight back to us. Yeah. Good girl. And they think, oh, we're going back on the lead, so they then don't want to come. And the dog then gets further and further away from their recall. And then you see people chasing their dogs around the park for ages trying to catch their dog back, when really you can turn it into a good game for them and almost trick them into going back on their lead. So you can end it on a nice game. Okay, ready? Good girl. I'm going to lure her around and then hold on to her collar as well. The collar hold's really important for recall, and it's something that you don't want to teach just for recall. So whether you're going to the vets and things like that, or if you've got to hold on to your dog in any way, having a collar hold is really, really important for your dog to be comfortable with. Okay, ready? So we can start this. If your dog's a bit wary, if they're a bit head shy or anything like that, we can start off with just putting our hand close by and then having a handful of food that they can nuzzle and help themselves to. So the minute we touch her collar, we're going to release a piece of food. And we can hold it a bit firmer, all around, which Paco's happy enough for us to do. Good girl. This then helps that dogs don't expect that as soon as they're recalled, they're going to be held onto their collar and then they're going to go back home. So add this into one of the other exercises. Ready? Go on then. So then we can, ready? Go on then. Good girl. Yes, good girl. And we can call her in and do a collar hold for that one. And then we can do we can lure her around. So all these activities you can mix into one. Yes, good girl. To improve a dog's recall. It's all about making it fun for your dog and keeping them engaged. There's a lot of times we're just doing simple recalls. Our dogs get bored. So that's for Paco. Sit. Good girl. And come. And things like this, we can even a simple recall, we can move backwards and keep our dog engaged with us. Good girl. That was very nice. It's great mental stimulation as well, especially with dogs that are very energetic, is keeping their focus. It tires them a lot more than just taking them for a simple walk and giving them a run around the park. Ready? Good girl. So another thing we can cover is jumping up. For Paco, she can be very, very bouncy, especially when coming out of her kennel, getting ready to go for a walk. It's very, very exciting. So when a dog is jumping up, it's important to not start yelling at them or anything like that, because that will then encourage them to jump even more. So for this, you can, especially if you're training and things like that, just pop your foot on the lead, whether your dog's on a harness or the lead's clipped onto his collar. Give it enough room so they can sit, they can lie down, but that's all. If you give them too much slack and they get too excited, they can then jump up. So we're going to try and get Paco really, really interested. Super well behaved today. Good girl. So we won't encourage her to jump if she's not going to, because this is what we want. So if a dog is jumping, just pop our foot on the lead. Wait for them to have all four paws on the floor. It doesn't necessarily need to be a sit or a down or anything like that. We're just encouraging having all four paws on the floor. So as soon as they are, we can give her some praise and then give her food reward as well. For some dogs that are really interested in getting food, it may be the case that you take out the food altogether because it'll be too much for them. But for those that do, you can pop treats on the floor to encourage them to sniff the ground for the treats instead. Because a lot of times if dogs jump and you're moving your hands all up around the place, it can encourage them to jump even more. So, ready? So no, Paco's not going to jump today. She's being pretty good. But this is something that you can try. Ready, Paco. Whether it's at home, out on walks, and it's important to encourage everyone in the home to do this as well, and everyone that meets your dog. Good girl. Yes, nice. Good girl. It sounds a little bit scary going past. Good girl. Okay. Nice. Good girl. Especially if you've got visitors that are coming to the house, I'd recommend keeping the dog out of the hallway or the entrance to where that person's coming in, and then wait for the dog to calm down. If they're on the other side of the door and they're super excited, jumping up, wanting to get to this person, then don't allow the dog in. Because all this is doing, the reward is that person giving them fuss, which is exactly what your dog wants. Good girl. So wait until they've calmed down, maybe pop a lead on the dog if you need to, and the minute their paws are on the floor, they're a little bit calmer, then the person can greet them. This is really, really important with consistency for this. If there's one person in the family that allows the dog to jump up, then that defeats the object of the whole bit of training that you've done, which isn't what we want. especially you will get little puppies that will jump up and things, so you don't mind back then, but as soon as the dog gets bigger, it can be an issue, especially with children and things in the home as well. Good girl, that's nice. So, to end this, we can recap a bit on Leave It. Ready? So, we get Paco nice and interested again. Leave it. Yes, good girl. Especially with exercises that you've had your dog running around for, it's great to then bring them back down with a calmer exercise. Something like Leave It, just a bit more static, just helps relax them that little bit more. Leave it. Good girl, nice. And this is a great one for rainy days as well. If you've got loads of time to spend, then it's definitely worth teaching. Leave. Yes, good girl. Nice. So for these as well, you can also end it, you're giving your dog something like a chew as well, just to help them process everything that they've learnt. Good girl. And help calm them back down again. So I hope that's been helpful. If there's anything you want us to cover in the next couple of weeks that you may be struggling with, or you're interested in seeing how it's being taught, then please leave a comment below, and we can see what we can do and help you out. But thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, as Paco definitely has. Good girl.